Good morning and welcome to the Anthony Petitti Organic Gardening Show. Thank you so much for getting up early and being with me on this first weekend of fall. Here we are into September. Well, it's not the first weekend of fall, but y'all know what I mean. First weekend of September, and it always seems like fall to us when it's September, but it's not. It's just Labor Day weekend, and we are at the fair this week, and so much has been going on all week long, and we're going to talk a little bit about the fair, but we're going to answer some questions. Several of you are having some issues in your yards, actually fields and in your gardens with a specific insect, so we're going to talk a bit about that as well. But of course, as always, we're going to open up in a word of prayer. Father, we just come before you, and we thank you for your goodness and your grace, Father, and we just thank you for all the blessings that you give us. Father, we just ask that you use our show to lead and guide someone into learning how to take care of the things that you have given us. Father, just help us all through the difficult times that we might be going through, and just help us to remember that who it is that gets us through these times. And just show other people the grace and the mercy that you show us, Father. Just remind us of the grace and the mercy that you show us to show to other people. Father, we just thank you again in Jesus' name. And that is something that we all need to think about is the mercy and the grace that Christ shows us. We need to show it to other people. When we're going through hard times or when something has happened, sometimes it's so difficult to show someone mercy and grace. And we just have to, when we're going through those times, remember how Christ has shown us that mercy and grace, and how we need to be a vehicle of Christ and show that to someone else. And we will be rewarded for that someday when we get to heaven. And we just have to remember those kind of things. Well, so here we are in the midst of the Stark County Fair. The fair goes on today. There were tractor pulls last night, tractor and truck pulls tonight. Tomorrow evening, Sunday evening, there will be a demolition derby starting at 7 o'clock. And then on Monday, Labor Day, that will be the last day of the fair. There will be a demolition derby at 4 in the afternoon. So if you haven't been out to the fair yet, please come out. You can visit me in the Grange building. If I'm not in the Grange building, I'm going to be in the Farm Bureau building. I'd love to meet any of you that are regular listeners, or maybe you're just tuning in for the first time by chance, and you want to come out to the Stark County Fair. That's where I'll be, and would love to meet you. We have demonstrations going on in the Grange building. Actually, today at 1 o'clock, I will be doing a demonstration on canning and freezing and dehydrating. We're going to talk about all that, preserving food and how we can do that. And then you will be able to see the canned items that people have entered at the Stark County Fair. And then tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, we will have a demonstration by Bob Monter, and Bob is the owner of BYOB Catering and Baking, and he is going to be doing a demonstration tomorrow, and so that will be a wonderful thing as well. So come on out to the fair and get some great fair food. Enjoy all the changes that the Fair Board has made this year. If you are used to seeing political booths underneath the grandstand, that is going to be a totally new thing for you. The White-tailed Deer Association of Ohio has a wonderful, wonderful display of wildlife from North America, and it is a wonderful, wonderful display. Also, the Eyes of Freedom. This just tears me up every time. Last Sunday, actually, they drove a semi in, escorted by motorcycles, and brought the whole display in a semi truck. And the Fair Board members and volunteers unloaded it all and set it up. It's in the south end of the exposition hall. And it is something that every single person that comes to the fair needs to see. And if you weren't even planning on coming to the fair, the Eyes of Freedom is definitely worth coming to the fair for. It is just such a wonderful memorial of the ones that sacrificed it all for our freedom. And it is just a beautiful, beautiful display. And we have the flags of freedom are at the fairgrounds this year, lining the 7th Street gate entrance. But then you go into the exposition hall and you see the Eyes of Freedom Memorial. And it is something that if you can walk through there without tears in your eyes, I don't know. I'm going to pray for your heart. It is just something so amazing. The families has donated the boots and the dog tags of these people that has sacrificed their lives for our freedom, and we thank those families that let us have this beautiful memorial. It is just a wonderful thing. So now that I'm all sappy, thank you all for letting me go off on a little rant there. But we are going to talk about some gardening things here today. And the first thing, and it's get out your pens because there is a lot going on with armyworms this year. I've heard several landscapers talking about it. Actually, even golf courses and country clubs are dealing with this insect this year. The armyworm has played havoc on several different crops. We have known armyworm in the past to wipe out wheat crops, but we have also seen it in lawns, again, residential lawns, but we're also seeing it like on the golf courses. And it is an insect that has definitely been a big problem already this year. And so it's something that we all need to be aware of. Now, you all know where I stand on insecticides and all of these kind of things. So there are a lot of insecticides that are not organic that are used for the armyworm. It does a lot of damage to a lot of things. It has a little snout that it eats through. You're going to see holes in some of the crops. We have seen it actually even on cabbage. But you will notice it a lot of times in a lawn where you'll notice a spot that looks like it might be some heat damage. And you'll think, it's because it's been hot and dry, but then, it hasn't been hot and dry. And lawns are, not really getting and seeing that damage that we usually see in late August, like it had been, it was late August till today. But, late August is when we all started seeing these issues. We had a lot of rain in August. So most lawns are still nice and green. We're still mowing. It's not like we're skipping weeks of mowing because, it's so dry and the grass isn't growing. The grass is still growing this year. And so if you see one of these spots in your yard where normally you would be like, at this time of the year, we're going into some dormancy, the lawn is browning out some. That's really not the case. So if you do have this issue this year, what you're going to want to do is definitely go out and do some digging around. Take a hard rake or a little 3-tined rake and do some scratching up and see if you can see some of these worms. You should be able to see the worm. And also, remember that this worm is going to turn into a moth. So to get to that stage where it will mutate into the moth form, it is going to do a lot of eating. And so when they're eating, they are doing a lot of damage. So what you want to try to do is kill them in the youngest stage as possible so that you don't have as much damage, and then it doesn't turn into an adult and lay more eggs, and the cycle just keeps on going. The moth itself, if you see the moth, it's pretty ugly. It's a good sized one though. Its wings are 2 parts. The upper part closest to the head is darker and more solid. The back part of the wings are lighter in color, almost translucent, but white in color, so or creamy in color, I guess it would be. So you want to be watching for that moth, because if you see it, you should know that you have armyworm. And because you have the armyworm moth, you're going to have that larva form, and you're going to want to try to get rid of it and kill it. So there are, like I said, there are chemicals that will control it. But if you are trying to do it organically, the good news is there is an organic that's going to take care of it. And that organic is Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. That good bacteria, the spermacid that we use on so many other types of worms and caterpillars, like the cabbage lopper caterpillar and those kind of things, it is also a great control for the armyworm. Now, if you are looking for the most ideal, you could get it in a concentrate and then put it in a tank sprayer and spray it. Or if you have a small lawn and you're dealing with it, you could actually even get the sprinkle can of the dust and sprinkle it all over your yard. And then when it rains, it'll water it right in and wipe them out. I don't know. This is terrible. I think that there is a chance of rain tomorrow. But to tell you the truth, I'm not positive. But we do have the Captain Jack's in all the different styles. We have it in the dust in 2 different size containers. We have it in a bag, in the large bag container, and then we also have it in the sprinkle can. And then we also have it in the concentrate and in the ready to use. Actually, as I talk here, I am looking at the weather forecast, and there is a chance of rain for tomorrow, but it's only a 40% chance. But if you don't have real thick grass, you could probably just sprinkle it on and you'll be okay, because it'll go down. But if your lawn is very, very thick and your dust is just going to lay on top, you really need to get it down in. So you're going to be better to water it in or use the liquid. That Captain Jack's is a wonderful thing. Remember, though, it doesn't kill on contact. So if you're out spraying, and this goes for not just armyworms, but if you are spraying cabbage lopper caterpillar still, which several of us are still battling that insect as well, if you are, you won't see them die as automatically as if you sprayed it with something else that has a contact kill. You're not going to see that because the bacteria actually has to start working on the insect, and it doesn't let it mutate into the next form. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we come back, but we need to take a short break and hear from our sponsors, Habitat for Humanity Restore and Bull Country Compost. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. And thank you again to Habitat for Humanity Restore and Bull Country Compost, 2 of my favorite things. Bull Country Compost when you're planting and when you need anything for your home to go to the Restore. I have got some of the greatest little treasures there, and actually some big treasures also. But we want to thank them for sponsoring our show each and every week. Now, before the break, we were talking about the armyworm, and the armyworm has been quite an issue for many of us this year, especially our lawn guys. There has been some big issues with the armyworm in residential lawns as well as golf courses, and the golf courses really don't want a bad case of armyworm because it can cause them some big damage. So you want to make sure that you are controlling this right away. And if you are one of our listeners, hopefully I have convinced you, if you already weren't a believer in organics, is to control the armyworm organically or all naturally, and that is going to be the Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew with the spermacid being the active ingredient, and that is going to really help you take care of that worm. Remember, like I said before the break, it is not a contact kill, so it's not going to be killing it as soon as you spray it on, but you are going to see it kill it gradually, within about 48 hours, then they will all be dead because they are not going to mutate into that next life stage. So you can you can expect not to see them not stop moving the instant that you spray or that you sprinkle the dust down. You will still see some of that movement going on. We do have the Captain Jack's, of course. We've been carrying it for years. You can stop out at the store today to pick that up. We are open till 4 o'clock today. We have had some special hours for the fair, but those hours are over actually because the fair will be over by the time we're open again. So today we're open till 4 o'clock. We are closed on Sundays at this time of the year, and we are also closed on Labor Day. We will reopen on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, and we'll be resuming to our regular hours, 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturdays 8 to 4. We still will remain closed on Sundays until December, when it will be time to get your Christmas trees. Can you believe we're even thinking about that already? But it has, the year is flying by, isn't it? And so we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask all of your questions, like people have been asking questions about the armyworm. And also we have a couple more questions that we're going to be answering for you. But if you have questions that you would like to ask us, you can do it several different ways. You can message me on Facebook, Anthony Petitti Organic Greenhouse, and click the messenger button, and you can message me your photos and your questions. You can also email me at cindypetitti@gmail.com. That's CINDYPETITTI@gmail.com. You can bring your issues and call me. You can call me at 330-455-5997, but then I don't have a picture. So sometimes over the phone isn't always the best, but we always say the best way to ask your question is to bring it to the store at 5828 Columbus Road. We're right there on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway in Nimishillen Township. And so we want you to get all of your questions answered, and hopefully we can do that for you. So the next question that we have is about our maple trees. And several people have been in this year, and they are bringing their leaves in. A lot of people have brought their leaves in. Some of you have even sent the photos. And these little spots on the leaf of your maple tree, the ones I have seen the most on are silver maples, and it looks like a little spot of black tar. And it is a fungus that is, on there this year. It's usually these kind of funguses is because we have hot, humid weather. It is not going to kill your tree. So I've had people like freaking out. I've got all these black leaves, and then they are dropping. The fungus will make you defoliate a little bit earlier than you normally would, of course. But it's not going to kill your tree. Your tree will come back next year. But it does stress your tree. So if you have this fungus going on your maple trees, or maybe even some of your other trees. We have had another question that someone asked about their apple trees having this same type of fungus on them. Not near as many like we have seen on the maple trees, but we have seen heard several people talk about it. So if you do have these little spots on your trees, maple trees, apple trees, and it looks like tar spots, it is a fungus, but don't fret. Your tree is going to be okay. But we do have a couple suggestions because of it stressing your tree so much. We do think that it is a good idea. Like I always tell you, this is why it's so important to fertilize your plants. And we see most of this damage on trees that are not fertilized because people don't want them to grow any faster. And I tell people all the time, you fertilize your trees and shrubs not so that they grow, but so that they stay healthy. As adults, we eat so we stay healthy. We don't eat to grow anymore. Children eat to grow up. We tell them, well, we want to feed you a healthy diet so that you grow up to be big and strong. When we're adults, we don't want to get any bigger, really. So, but we still eat, and hopefully, as many of us as we can, we eat a healthy diet. We have a treat here and there, but we eat a healthy diet. If you're not feeding your trees and shrubs anything, and some people think that if you fertilize your lawn, that's enough for your trees too, because their root system is underneath your lawn, and that is not true. They still need something more specific for themselves. But if you fertilize your trees and shrubs, remember the drip line and in only about a foot is that's what's necessary. This is going to keep your trees and shrubs stronger. And with that strength, just like us, it's very, very typical. If we eat a healthy diet, we can fight off more insects and diseases that would come against us. So the trees and shrubs are going to be the same way. If you feed them a healthy diet, fertilizing them in the spring and in the fall, they're going to be able to fight off insects and diseases just like we can if we eat a healthy diet. So that's why it's so important to fertilize, your trees, your shrubs, your perennials, and of course your gardens. You always want to keep things fertilized so that they are stronger and healthier. So if you have this black fungus on your trees, you might want to do that fertilization this fall if you haven't been doing it in the past, to give them a boost through the winter. Fertilize them again next spring, and you will see a new set of leaves come out, and everything is going to be fine. It's not, in most cases, will not come back next year. I do recommend that if you do have this year, the leaves that you rake up, make sure that they are burnt, are going in the trash. I probably wouldn't just let them decompose in your compost pile or in your garden. Most likely, if we have a cold winter, that fungus that's on there will all die off. That spore will be gone, no problem. But we never know what kind of winter that we're going to have. So if you do have this fungus growing on, or any fungus growing on a leaf, on a root system, anything like that, putting that plant or that debris in your compost pile is not a good idea. I do know people that say, I put everything in my compost pile and then I just treat it with an organic insecticide and an organic fungicide and hope for the best. And that's totally up to you. I don't like to take those chances. So I usually, if I have a diseased or an insect-infested plant, it doesn't go in my compost pile. I try to get rid of them in another way. And then just those healthy things that come down go into the compost pile, and you're good to go, and you won't have any of those issues. We had one other question. Again, trees were our issue this week. Yellowing leaves on our crabapple trees falling off. This is not something that we want, but it's pretty common. In August, a lot of times you will see, and sometimes even in July, you will see crabapple trees yellowing up, starting to change some color and falling off. Crabapple trees are known for this. That's why they're not as popular as they used to be. It's usually apple scab disease. And if you have it, try to look through your landscape or the neighbor's landscape and see who has junipers, because junipers are a carrier of the apple scab disease. You don't see it on them, of course, but they are a carrier. So then that spore will get airborne and go, of course, to the crabapple trees and cause that. It will also move to your regular apple trees, your fruit-bearing apple trees, and so you do want to watch out for that. If you do have an issue with that on your crabapple trees, getting your junipers out of there is definitely a good idea. And if you are in love with your junipers, maybe go with a different tree and you won't have the issue. But that is always going to be a relevant thing. If you have junipers and crabapple trees, you're probably going to have that issue. They still are beautiful in the spring. They flower great, but they are going to lose their leaves a little bit earlier than you want them to. Well, we are just about to the end of the show. I want to remind everybody about the fair again. The fair, the Stark County Fair is going on right now as we speak. There are sales going on this morning, and then there's entertainment in the pavilion throughout the day, and also the tractor and truck pulls tonight at 7 o'clock in the grandstands. Tomorrow evening will be a demolition derby with also entertainment going on throughout the day in the pavilion. Also, there will be church service in the morning. And so we would invite you to, if you're going to be at the fair early, join us in the pavilion for church service tomorrow morning. And then on Monday, again, going on entertainment in the pavilion. And then at 4 p.m. in the grandstands, there will also be a demolition derby. I just appreciate all of you being with us each and every week. We will be back with you next Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Here we will be. That will be a very special day as well. That is Patriot Day, September 11th, that we will be back with you next Saturday morning right here at 8 a.m. on the Light 95.9. Have a blessed week.